I spent the weekend in Rochester with my best friend's family, and it's fun. But it brought up something, well, it brought up a couple things, and we'll get to all of them in turn. The first one is my best friend's family is big into nature and hiking and camping, and so are my cousins who live in Buffalo. And in hanging out with them, I've had ample opportunities to head out into the world with my allergies and my detestation of humidity and observe nature up close. I myself do not do well in nature settings, but it's always good to take advantage of those opportunities for D&D. The story I'm going to tell is not with my best friend, but actually years and years ago, my brother and I were visiting our cousins in Buffalo. And the thing is, we go up there on our vacation and we just want to sit around and not do anything. But my aunt is very insistent that we're coming up there so that she can show us all the sights. And one year we went to Old Fort Niagara. And my brother and I weren't interested in traipsing about an old fort. But when we got there, I told my brother, pay attention to everything here because it's just like D&D. For someone who's never been inside and like a wooden fort, an actual wooden fort, you don't quite grasp what it was like back when you had wooden forts. We don't build wooden forts today. We have nice buildings with insulation and everything. And the feel of walking across a wood bridge, the the look of just these big wooden beams buried half in the ground as the wall. All the buildings are wood, a wooden spiral staircase. There was all of this wonderful little detail that you could impress in your mind, and it helps you both when you're playing D&D to immerse yourself. You have an idea of what this thing is like, as well as when you're a dungeon master to make stuff up. So, what is it with this big ugly tree? Well, I used this as the first picture, but that's actually not what I want to talk about first. We went to Webster Park in Rochester. And I think these pictures that I'm going to show you are from Webster Park, or at least they were on a website that talked about Webster Park. This was just a cool looking picture. This bridge into. You can see that there's stairs and a walkway here, and yet there's this waterfall of snow just pouring down onto it, snow and ice covering it. So this is like an inspirational photo. This was just a pretty looking nature photo. This was gloomy. Look at the gloom and doom and just the foreboding nature of this. Obviously, they're not going to have probably a cannon in D&D, but you can still just looking at the picture here grasp that sense of you're in a forest, the trees are big, but maybe it's winter or approaching winter, and so you have all of these leafless limbs reaching out across here, and the fog. The fog is there's no fog in Arizona. I mean, I might have seen fog in Arizona 2 or 3 times in my life. So fog always is cool, but it also freaks me out because every time I see it, I'm driving a car. What's this? I know for sure that this is Webster Park. I walked on this bridge, and this looks like an autumn picture. I was there, of course, in summer where everything is very green, and I was there in the middle of the day, so you didn't have the sunlight coming in. But yeah, there's this bridge, and then further back, like where we are standing to take this picture, there is another one of these wooden bridges, and it's underneath tree cover, and it gets very swampy looking right around there. And that's actually what we're talking about. I couldn't find a picture of the actual tree stump. This is way too tall for the tree stump that I saw. But back on that second wooden bridge, and there's actually a metal bridge there too, even further on. That bridge has a scene, this little vista, and you can look out, and there's this entire wall of just plants growing. And for someone who's from Arizona, this is incredibly novel to me. I'm not used to this. So for anybody else who might have grown up in like the Northeast, maybe they don't. This doesn't blow their mind like it does for me. But there's all these trees, and then there's these bushes, and then there's these vines, and then there's these grasses and clover growing all over on this little island. But I mean, like, for 20 feet going straight up, there's nothing but green. And right in front of all of that wall of green, there's like a 1 foot deep river going, and it's a small little stream, and it's brown from all of the dirt, and I guess there's brown algae growing in there. Tiny, tiny little fishes are swimming around in it. And then, of course, there's like garbage in there too, but that's just because people are jerks. But then you have this brown swampish water, and there's a couple plants growing up out of it. And then you have the other shore, and that shore looks more like a park. It was there's a little jet, a little part where the land jets into the stream, and there's like mowed grass and what have you. But there's also this like 10 or 12 foot tall white tree stump, and for whatever reason they cut it off 10 feet above ground, and it's not going straight up, but it's actually leaning out over the stream. And my thought on that is just, I want that. I wish I had a camera with me to take a picture of it, because I would have liked that exact, just that exact view. But now we were talking about having hags in the other video, the boss monster video. And so when I saw this scene, I'm like, wow, that's where my hag lives. And to warn people off, there's going to be a landmark. And that landmark is this big white tree stump that was not cut off down towards the bottom, low to the ground, 2, 3 feet tall. No, it was cut 10, 12, maybe even 15 feet up in the air, and felled all the way up there. And so you just have this big leaning white tree stump. Now, wandering through the forests up there, because we walked in amongst the trees and everything, you probably can't see it from too far away, like hundreds of yards away, but you can see it from a bit of a distance. And when you do see it, after you know that there's a hag living there, you're like, hey, I don't want to walk anywhere near that white tree stump. After you beat the the hag or anything, and it's now safe by that white tree stump, the white tree stump becomes a useful signpost. People can use it to travel back and forth. And while looking for a picture of a tall tree stump, I first looked for giant tree stump, and I came across this lovely picture. This looks like it was a giant tree growing, and they built like a building around it. This right here looks very much like computer-generated graphics. This is from attractionsmagazine.com. But I mean, it looks like it's computer photoshopped in on these big roots. Who knows if it is or not? It could just be, a big plastic tree that they built. But I like the foreboding look of this structure. It's a very solid, militaristic, like Great Wall of China looking outpost. But then you also have like this Warcraft orc construction when it comes to the slanted roof with these pointy studs coming out the end. And then you just have this big ugly tree on top. And so I kind of like that. I want to use this image, minus the construction worker here, as some sort of locale. And this doesn't have to be a tree like it was an actual tree. I mean, there could be any number of reasons why there's this big, ugly, unnatural stump. This could just be a big mud pile, and some of the mud slid down this side, and you just describe it that way. But I found this picture, and I like this picture, so we're going to keep it. Not much content in this particular video, but I got to explain Fort Niagara, Webster Park in Rochester. By the way, Lake Ontario smelled like a latrine. It was so bad, my friend said, what did he say? He says, did we pass a sign that says, welcome to Lake Ontario, please defecate? Because, I mean, it smelled like it smelled like crap. Like every animal in existence came and took a crap in Lake Ontario that day. For 100 yards, you could smell it. It was disgusting. What a wonderful note to end the video on. Bye-bye.